Hi. All right. So I'm going to talk to you about the book "Who Moved My Cheese." Right. So it's a book "Who Moved My Cheese" by Spencer Johnson. It's part of the One Minute Manager series. And if you have ever kind of just looked into the One Minute Manager series, it's a series of books that was published a long, long time ago. So when I first graduated, let me something over the screen. When I first graduated school many years ago, when I was 19, I think, and I got my first job, I was required to read One Minute Manager. And it was such a quick read, and it was such a great book about how to be an efficient manager, focusing on things 1 minute at a time, right? And so it was my first managing job, right? And it was at Johnny Rockets in Indianapolis. And so I read that book, and it just kind of turned me on to that whole series of books. So when Who Moved My Cheese came out, when I saw that book, I was like, I have to read this book. And it's all about just kind of adapting to change. And it's just kind of a story about, and the thing I love about the One Minute Manager series, and John Gordon does this too, is he kind of tells stories, right? So he's a storyteller. So he kind of tells a story about a person, maybe. If you're familiar with like the energy bus, it's about the guy and his car breaks down, so he has to take the bus, and the bus driver tells him all the stories and the rules and all that jazz. So it's kind of along those sort of lines. So with Who Moved My Cheese, it's 4 little mice, right? And so the mice's names are let's see here, Snip and Scurry and Ham and Haw. So I think we know what Snip and Scurry do, and I think we know what Ham and Haw do, right? So Snip and Scurry kind of get on board with change, and Ham and Haw are sitting around going, I don't know, I'm not sure what we're going to do, right? So all of them are in a maze, right? And so the whole point of the story is that the cheese, which is their food, and so in our world, that's our business, right? So that's our business, the sales. So the cheese gets moved, right? Slowly throughout the book, the cheese is being taken away. So they start noticing that there's less cheese when they go there every day. So then they start trying to have to adapt to this change. And so they start trying to adapt. So Snip and Scurry. So Snip and Scurry, they start adapting quicker than Hem and Haw, because Hem and Haw, what are they doing? They're hemming and hawing, trying to figure out what to do, right? And they just keep going back, expecting something to change, expecting the cheese to just replenish itself instead of trying to find new ways or new paths to find more cheese, right? So that's kind of the gist of the story, but I'm going to share with you some of the main takeaways and lessons of the story. But I highly suggest getting the book, get it on Audible or whatever it is. You can rent it from the library. Lots of libraries have ways that you can like digitally rent books, and it's absolutely free, and you can do it right to your phone. So just something to consider. So my daughter was so funny when she was home over the summer. She was like so excited when she realized that she could hook her library card up to her phone, and then she's like, "Oh my gosh, I can like borrow books all the time for free." She's like, she's a big reader. So the first one is change is inevitable, right? Change happens. It happens all around us all the time, no matter what, right? So the book example is the cheese in the maze, right? The cheese in the maze represents success, comfort, or stability, right? It's our food. It's what nourishes us. It's what in our business, it's what supplies our business. It's what keeps that business going, right? So it's moved and it's running out. And it symbolizes the change in our life and our business. So the way it kind of applies to our business, think about market trends, think about customer preferences, company strategies, because that shifts regularly. We've seen it in Tupperware company strategies shifting over the last couple of years. Think about omni-channels, right? We didn't even know what that word meant a couple of years ago, and now we know, right? Think about things like that. Think about their social media policies. Think about things along those lines. So recognizing these changes are natural and they're expected. Oh, I thought she was putting another camera on me. I'm like, what is happening right now? Okay, so what are hi Pam? It's like my good conscience and my bad conscience. So who wants to be on this side? Jenny? No,
on my way.
Okay, so the action steps with that is to train yourself to anticipate these changes, right? Change is inevitable. We know that. So we know that things are going to shift and change. So we need to kind of learn to adapt to that and expect the change. It's okay if we kind of Drag our feet a little bit. Okay, it's okay if we kick and scream a little bit and we do a little bit of whine. We can have a pity party for 60 seconds and then we need to move on, right? Okay, so that's okay. But the change is inevitable. And so that's rule number one. So, well, not rule number one, it's takeaway number one. So, takeaway number two is adaptation is key to survival and success, right? So, the book example is the mice sniff and scurry, immediately start adapting. They immediately go looking for another cheese source, right? They immediately start looking to see, all right, so if there's less and less cheese here, there must be more cheese someplace else. We have to go find it, right? So they start looking and venturing out into the maze and finding those new opportunities. Hem and Haw, however, resist that change and suffer as a result, right? They're just keep going back and there keeps being less and less cheese because it's not being replenished. And we've seen that before, right? We've seen it maybe, you know, you had a customer stream from a specific, maybe you went to a specific vendor event year after year, and you could see that there were less and less customers coming to this vendor event year after year, but you still kept going to that same vendor event and just thinking that maybe somehow one year it was just going to keep getting better and better, but it kept going down and down. So you saw the trend, but you ignored it. Why? Because it was your favorite, or you like the person sitting beside you, but you weren't, you were kind of putting that priority over your business priority, right? And so, let's see here, when faced with challenges such as declining sales, new targets, or team restructuring, right? You want to adapt quickly in seeking those solutions instead of dwelling on problems. And sometimes even top leaders sometimes dwell on problems way too long, and it can slow them down and sometimes even put them out of business. And I know Pam can attest to this, and anybody that's been in Tupperware for a while can attest to seeing very top leaders that we've seen their names over and over again in recognition. And all of a sudden one day you're like, whatever happened to so-and-so? And a lot of times that's exactly what happened. They dwelled on their problems way too long and they ended up putting themselves out of business. Don't be that person, right? All right, so the action step is when something isn't working for you, what can you focus on, right? What is it that you can focus on? You can focus on the solution, right? Focus on the solution. It's okay if you don't know what that solution is, right? That's absolutely okay. But you can go to your leader and be like, here is my problem. And I'm trying to focus on the solution and I can't quite find the solution. And the two of you can work on that solution together, right? All right, so number three is monitor your cheese regularly, right? You gotta monitor that cheese in order to notice if it's depleting, right? So you wanna look at it. So in the book, Sniff and Scurry constantly check the supply of cheese, staying prepared for potential changes. Hem and Haw, however, take the cheese for granted and are unprepared when it runs out. This is very easy, right? So how this applies to us is analyzing your markets, right? Analyzing your market trends, customer behavior, competition and strategies to stay ahead of shifts. And you use data performance and metrics. And some of you are like, what in the world is she even talking about, right? So when it comes to social media, that might be the meta, right? That might be the metadata. That might be looking back at your, so that's analytics, right? That's the word. That's like the analytics, right? So if you ever see that word, click on it, okay? Click on that and start looking at those numbers because they have graphs and they have charts. You may not understand it at first, but you can Google it, right? I didn't understand it half the time, but I know I can always Google it and just keep clicking on things. Anything that's clickable, click it. And then you're gonna be like, I saw this number somewhere and I don't know where I saw it, but it said this, right? And then in your Tupperware back office, there are also some numbers there to pay attention to. And as leaders, we look at those numbers too. We look at our recruiting, we look at our team counts, we look at things like that. And that tells us like, oh, my team count's really low. I think we need to work on recruiting. Or my manager count's low. I need to work on helping some more people and working with my people more one-on-one. So we look at things like that and the way they're trending to know where we need to focus, right? So that's really important. So number 4 is fear of change can hold you back. Absolutely, it can hold you back. The example is Hem and Haw refused to leave the empty cheese station because of the fear of the unknown. Haw, though initially hesitant, overcomes his fears and finds new cheese. Application to sales is that it is the fear of trying new techniques and leaving a comfort zone. So for some people, the new technique is social media. And for some people, the new technique is home parties, right? So we have both sides, right? We have somebody who does all social media and the new technique is doing stuff in person. And then we have the other person that does all in-person things and the new technique is social media, right? So don't be afraid to try new things. That is where the growth happens. It's in the new, right? So go for it. Go for it. Go for it. It feels uncomfortable and it can be really scary, but do it anyways, right? Step through the fear, right? It's okay. We all feel the fear, but we do it anyways. All right. And so conduct a brainstorming session with your favorite, business buddy and just be like, hey, can you work with me on this? And everybody does that, right? And maybe it's even just your partner, maybe it's your spouse, your significant other, and be like, hey, can you just kind of brainstorm my Tupperware business with me? And just kind of be like, this is what I'm thinking. And in a perfect world, it would look like this, and just kind of like work through it. Or your BFF. Ideally, it's somebody in Tupperware because there's a shorthand there. You don't have to do quite as much explaining about some of the inner workings of Tupperware because they kind of get it, right? All right, so number 5 is you want to visualize success and stay motivated. That is such a key to any success in any business whatsoever. And the example from the book is Pa imagines himself enjoying new cheese, right? And which motivates him to keep exploring the maze to find that cheese. And for us, anybody in sales, you focus on those long-term goals. And that's why we do our pillowcases. That's why we do our vision boards. That's why we put screensavers on our phones. That's why we do all of the things that we do. I went through my phone this year and I actually changed some of the contact names in my phone to like inspire me to be better. Right. And I put, I made my daughter, like the contact name is Proud Daughter, right? Because I want her to be proud of me, and things like that. And it just makes me feel good. Every time she calls, I look at that and I'm like, I want to make her proud of me. So I'm going to work hard today, and it just, and my sister, I changed hers to Proud Sister of Organizational Leader of the Year. And that's what did that for me. I was like, I'm doing this. I'm doing it. And I went through it. They're really long. I don't know what just happened. They're really long titles, right? And so it comes through and it like scrolls on my computer, like it's really big, but I don't care, and it just, that's something extra that I'm doing this year, trying to like, just get in that place and get in that space, whatever I can do. Right. So visualizing, it helps so much. So number 6, embrace the adventure of change, right? It is an adventure. Life is an adventure and it's ever changing. And there's nothing we can do to stop it. There's nothing we can do. All we can do is lean in, right? So in the book, Paul realizes that exploring the maze is exciting and it's fulfilling. He learns valuable lessons and discovers new cheeses, right? Who doesn't love new cheeses, right? He discovers new cheeses. And so in our business, shifting market conditions can bring opportunities for learning and growth, right? It can bring you to new people and new business and new customers, and treat challenges as a chance to innovate and to improve. So the action step there is just to celebrate all of the wins, the little wins, and new discoveries during times of change, and keep your morale high as you can through anything that you can do. So things that you can do to apply these lessons in real life is to have that mind shift, right? That mindset shift, and train yourself to really, view change as an opportunity rather than a setback, because it never is a setback. It really truly is a setup. It's a setup to something more amazing. And sometimes it looks like a setback because you have to really kind of step through something. And maybe it's a barrier that you have to break through to get there. But I'm telling you, so much amazing stuff is on the other side of that. And maybe it's a stronger you, a more resilient you, but it's just so amazing, but you have to keep moving forward with that. So identify some steps for you to take away from this is: 1, identify potential cheeses of changes in your business, right? So maybe it's just kind of maybe some things that are coming down the road for you. Maybe you have something in your life that's coming up. Maybe you have somebody graduating this year. Maybe you have a move coming up, something like that, that you know is going to be a little bit challenging for you, right? And just see that up ahead coming. Identify those things. And two, conduct role playing exercises, maybe with a business buddy or your leader, to practice adapting to some of these things. So be like, I have these challenges that might be coming up. So how can I grow through that? Like, what are some things that I can do now to grow through these challenges? Maybe some skills I can learn to grow through this challenge that's coming. And three, share some personal success stories. Share them with other people in the business, to be able to just start building yourself up and also building others, because somebody's going to learn from your success as well. So just kind of some closing thoughts is to, just kind of, just remember that change is natural, because sometimes you feel like everything's happening to you instead of for you. And it really is natural, and you're not alone. We are all ever changing, and we're all changing together. And when you do feel like you are alone and you're struggling with that, that's the time to reach out so that you don't feel isolated in that change, whatever it is that you're going through or a struggle that you're having in your business. And that's when you reach out to your leader so that they can support you through your change, and also just kind of mastermind with you on steps that you can take to improve through that change so that you can come out on the other side just stronger and ready to face the next one. All right.
Awesome. Thank you, Ellen.